Okay, in order to get our minds settled and focused on the material Christopher is going to share with us today, we will remind ourselves of our motivation for studying and our gratitude for there being such a marvelous course of study. All right, so with that said, we'll take refuge and generate bodhicitta in Tibetan. Sangye chodon soki chokdam la, Jamshu badu dakni kyapsuchi, Dagi chinyen ki pe sonam ki, Drola penshir sangye juparsho, Sangye chodon soki chokdam la, Jamchu badu dakni kyatsuchi, Daki chinyen ki pe sonam ki, Rola penshir sangye druparsho, Sangye chodam soki choknam la, Jamchu badu dakni kyatsuchi, Daki chinyen ki pe sonam ki, Rola penchir sangye druparsho. Just as a reminder and maybe not a reminder, maybe new info for some, but except for the teacher, in that prayer, when we say through the positive potential I create by listening to teaching, so Chinyan, we the students say Chinyan, but don't be confused if you hear Christopher saying Jin Sok, because he's saying something else since he's giving the teaching. And this was on the advice of Geshe Nima that he say it, his version, and we say our regular student version, in case you have been wondering about that. The four measurables are a summary of the attitude that we're meant to have about everything we think, say, and do throughout our day and our life, in our waking state and our dream state. A way to think about them is these are the attitudes that we're meant to abide in at all times. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment with friends and enemies. Something that itself could be a complete practice, those four measurables. Next, in the set of prayers, we don't generally say this to save time, but it's good to remember that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas are present. Not only when you're doing your study and practice, but all the time. If there is such a thing as a Buddha and a Bodhisattva, it's merely our contaminated vision or our mistaken vision, or let's just say our not optimal vision that prevents us from seeing them in their state. So you can say it simplistically, just because they're vibrating at a level that our eyesight can't apprehend doesn't mean they're not there. So it's good to keep that in mind, not only during teachings, but just all the time. Okay, and then with that in mind, with those helpful beings in mind, we direct the 7 lines of the 7-limb prayer to them, and sort of as a pledge of how we intend to conduct ourselves. Not only to all objects that can be said to be teachers for us. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends, turning the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. It's good to, I know Christopher's done a recording going through the seven limb prayer, but it's important to remember that when we say these things, and this one in particular, let's say, when we recite them prior to a class, it's meant to be a reminder. The real power of the seven limb is when you separate from the class meeting time, but in your own time, to take one line and do a little analytical meditation, take one line at a time and think about, why is this thought important for me to keep in my consciousness with respect to the relationship that I'm developing with between myself and between the lamas, the teachers, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas. So it's a really important series of thoughts to cultivate and analyze as you practice day after day. Not meant to be just read like the Pledge of Allegiance or something, but meant to be contemplated. Same with the mandala offering. And before we recite this in Tibetan, our consciousness is the wellspring from anything and everything that we possibly could offer to sentient beings, as well as to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But if you think kind of more clearly and analytically, as we've said before, what could the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas possibly want from us other than our uncluttered, let's say, other-centered attitude towards our existence? How can we how can we participate in our existence in a way that uplifts all sentient beings? So when we do the mandala offering, it's good to keep in mind that the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas don't need the things that are, they're symbols of how our universe will look as we clean up our mental act and begin to sort of, in a reliable way, generate non-harming and only helpful, beautiful things. All right. Soji Puki Jokshin Merito Trambri Dro Shila Churupasho Idam Radha.
Okay, in that same, staying in this frame of mind, we'll open with Geshe Nima's meditation on the clarity of the mind. And he says that before we do that meditation, first of all, we have to visualize in the space above and in front of you, or imagine in the space above and in front of you, a very large, beautiful lotus seat made of light. Upon that lotus seat, imagine a red sun disk resting beneath a white moon disk. The sun disk refers to the wisdom of emptiness, and the moon disk refers to the unconditional love of bodhicitta. The moon symbolizes the method or compassion aspect of the path, and the sun symbolizes the wisdom or the profound view of the path. On that seat of sun and moon, your guru, it could be His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Geshe Nima, or any guru that you have a strong personal connection to. You visualize your guru in the form of Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom. Actually, it is your guru, but you imagine or visualize your guru as Manjushri. In the heart of Manjushri, you imagine Lama Tsongkhapa, the founder of the Gelug lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, which is the lineage that we follow. In the heart of Lama Tsongkhapa, you imagine Buddha Shakyamuni. In the heart of Buddha Shakyamuni, you imagine Vajradhara, the primordial Buddha, who we all have the potential to become. Usually, before we start any Dharma practice, we supplicate from our heart to our gurus and the Buddhas. This is because when we engage in Dharma practice, very often our mind has so much distraction that whatever we try to do, it doesn't stick in our mind. It doesn't make sense to our mind. At that time, we can make an offering of a mandala to the Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as we did in the opening prayers. Sometimes we offer Lamrim prayers. And sometimes we think of the three essential points of supplicating our Guru to bless us. These are the points that Geshe Nima gave to us. And we supplicate from our heart 3 times. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to eliminate all my negativity, including disrespect and distrust toward my Guru, and grasping at self and phenomena, including the self-centered attitude. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to achieve all the realizations, including unwavering faith and trust in my Guru, until I attain all good qualities, including the enlightened state of mind. Please, my Guru, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, stay upon me and bless me. Help me to clear away all obstacles that hinder the achievement of my goals, in this life and the next, until I attain a liberation and enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Now imagine great amounts of nectar emitting from your Guru, Lama Tsongkhapa, Buddha Shakyamuni, and Vajradhara, coming toward you in the form of light that enters through the crown of your head. You imagine that your body is full of smoke or dust. When the nectar enters your head, it cleanses all of your negativity or bad karma related to your bodily actions. Then the nectar comes to your throat, and you imagine it cleanses the negativity and bad karma related to your speech. And then the nectar comes down to your heart, and you imagine the negativity or bad karma related to your mind is cleansed. Because there is so much strong and powerful nectar that comes from the hearts of the Buddhas and your Guru in the form of light to your head. It cleanses all the negativity related to your mind, body, and speech. Finally, all the negativity transforms into black smoke and exits through your body completely, permanently. And you receive the blessing of your Guru and the Buddhas before you. Then you let your mind abide in equanimity for a minute. You feel a kind of joy because you're now free of all negativity related with your mind, body, and speech. Like the sky, completely free of all cloudy or foggy appearances. Your mind is very clean, very clear. You feel joy in your mind, a clarity of mind. The mind is cleansed of all deluded thought and distraction and all negativity. Like the bright light of the sun. You abide in that equanimity. Now we continue on to the meditation on the clarity of the mind, which is free from all misconceptions, misapprehension, distracted mind, and all delusions. You never follow past experiences or past conceptual thought that embellishes or fabricates or creates memories that are different from what you actually had during the past. You never follow that mind. Don't judge, this is good, this is bad. Just be aware of what comes into your mind and let it go. Just stay aware. Then you never invite any unrealistic future thought, some kind of imagined different object or thing, what may come in the future. If such thoughts arise in your mind, we don't judge, this is good, or this is bad, this is virtuous, this is non-virtuous. Just be aware of what comes into your mind and let it be. Again, your mind continuously stays focused on the present moment of the mind. That present moment of mind is luminous and clear, clean, free from all negativity, just like pure water on pure water. The present moment of the mind is very pure, immaculate, always there, and objectless. Let your mind abide on that clarity of mind for a minute. Geshe Lama gave us this meditation specifically because he wanted us to practice it every day. And so I will be doing some version of this before all of the classes. I've also made a recording of this, and there's a study guide for this, because obviously it's important for us to be practicing this. This particular meditation is really the doorway or the gateway to having a direct experience of the clear light nature of the mind. And this is how we do it. We do it by practicing first. Practicing is as important as studying and listening to teachings and reading the Dharma. Because if all we do is study and listen to teachings and read the Dharma and don't put that information into a regular daily practice, not much is going to change for us. Our habits are too strong. So we have to generate new habits. And this is one of the things that Geshe Lima stressed a lot in this past teaching. There is another, an alternate version that he gave of this meditation, where rather than the various Buddhas being sort of nested inside your guru, they come out of the guru and are sort of stacked one on top of the other. And we'll do that one as well, so that we are familiar with both of them.
I think it's to state the obvious, but what the heck? I love stating the obvious. When you do this in your daily practice, the amount of time you spend focusing on the mind becomes the longer period of time. Probably just now, Christopher spent 8 minutes doing all the introductory explanation, and we had about 1.5 minutes of the meditation itself. So as you get more familiar, that the setup gets very quick. You just go straight to the supplication and then straight to so you're not, all those words aren't the point. The point is to rest to get to the final resting point.
Exactly. And what they always say is we need the concepts. We have to start with the concepts. But we have to also move beyond the concepts to an actual experience. And that comes through repeated practice, habituation, and then you can kind of let the concepts go and just experience meditation. So now we will go to the this particular transcription is from the third session that Geshe Nima gave on January 11th, Saturday, January 11th. And he was continuing with the first stanza of the Rate of Accomplishments, which was the mindfulness of the Guru. So the first thing he did was he said we finished that stanza, and so he read the whole stanza. Upon a seat of the unchanging union of method and wisdom sits the gracious Guru, embodiment of all sources of refuge. A Buddha, perfect in abandonment and realization, right there. Abandoning all critical ideas, supplicate him or her with pure perception. Without allowing the mind to wander, remain in a state of devotion. Without losing mindfulness, remain in a state of devotion. So that stanza actually describes much of what we just did in this first meditation, where it's talking about the Guru sitting on the unchanging union of method and wisdom. Well, that's the lotus with the red moon disk, white moon disk, and the Guru sitting upon that. The moon disk represent the union of method and wisdom, compassion and wisdom, bodhicitta and wisdom. And this is what we're visualizing at the opening of this, the clarity of mind meditation. And then he says, abandon all critical ideas and supplicate him or her with pure perception. Well, those are those 3 supplications that we were making. So this is how Geshe Nima is giving us a practice that is directly related to this first stanza, and it continues with the other stanzas as well. So I wanted to point that out. Now, so the last part of the stanza says, without losing mindfulness, remain in a state of devotion. And so now Geshe Nima is going to talk about, well, what is mindfulness? What is this state that we don't want to lose? And here it is, the transcription. Mindfulness, according to Buddhist psychology, is a specific mental state that recalls a particular object which we have understood or realized already. So it means we've spent some time with a particular object, understanding what it is, spent some time meditating on it to realize what it is. So mindfulness is sort of recalling that understanding that we have, that realization that we have. We're not letting that go. The main function of mindfulness is to bring our mind back to a specific object again and again. Sometimes when we lose our mindfulness, for example, in class, or when we're reading or writing or listening to a teacher or a speaker giving a lecture, if we lose our mindfulness, then our mind starts wandering everywhere. If we can retain our mindfulness properly, it will be strong and powerful. Then we can control our own mind and remain focused on a specific object. If you are listening to a teacher's teaching, you can keep your mind always focused on the teaching. When we weigh the power of mindfulness and distracted thought, mindfulness is more powerful than distracted thought. However, if we allow distracted thought to become more powerful than our mindfulness, the power of our mindfulness lessens, and we forget what we are doing, so that we get distracted everywhere. So this really it comes down to us. By nature, what he's saying is, mindfulness is a much stronger state than distraction. Distraction is, well, we know what distraction is. It's all over the place. And so it's a dissipated kind of energy where mindfulness is a very focused, strong energy. So yes, mindfulness is stronger, but our continual habit is to just be distracted by everything and, jump here and there and here and there and just fall, when we're in conversations with people or we're, on the internet, look how distracted we are. So this is something we have to be very aware of. And particularly in Buddhist practice, we have to develop the power of our mindfulness. We have to keep at it and not allow this very ingrained habit that we have to be distracted by everything just to have its way. We have to exert some control, some control of our mindfulness. According to Buddhist psychology or Buddhist philosophy, mindfulness is the particular mental state which helps us keep our mind directed toward an object we have an understanding of already, which our wisdom understands already. According to the Abhidharma, and written about by Asanga in depth in that text, mindfulness involves two specific mental factors. One of them is wisdom, and one of them is mindfulness. These are mental factors. When we talk about our day-to-day mindfulness meditation, the method of that meditation involves both wisdom and mindfulness. Our wisdom first understands the essential point of something through reason or through one's own experience, very clearly and very logically. Then, in order to not forget that essential point, mindfulness stays aware of it. Our mindfulness familiarizes and becomes habituated to it again and again. We're actually using we're using the process that we so well know of habituation. We have all of us have so many habitual tendencies. Our mind is filled with habitual tendencies. And we do it quite well. We all know we have good habits, we have bad habits, we just have habits we don't even think about. What we're doing here is we're specifically developing a beneficial habit, a virtuous habit, a habit that is going to help us become happy and help us to help others become happy. So this is very important. I mean, if we think of it in this way, with these practices that we're doing, we're using the power we already know of becoming habituated to something, but we're using it very consciously and developing it for a very positive purpose. So this is the function of mindfulness, to familiarize yourself with something and become habituated to it again and again and again, and to focus on the essential point of that particular object that we're focusing on.
This is going to sound a little weird, perhaps. Since we have nothing other than
Habits.
our mind, I mean, consciousness and awareness, ultimately, that's our existence.
Right.
We're just going from one moment of awareness of something to another moment of awareness of something. So, would you say that in essence, this advice about mindfulness is like saying, throughout your existence, have an intention about how you're using your existence, as opposed to letting yourself fly in the wind?
Yeah, yes, I would say so. Sometimes, though, I think the mistake that we sentient beings sometimes make, because we don't actually understand the nature of reality the way the Buddha presents it, which is that there is no such thing as inherent existence. As sentient beings, we think there is such a thing as inherent existence. It's the way everything appears to us, and so we go after the things that appear to us inherently as either with something we're attracted to, or something we want to stay away from, or something we don't care about. So some of our, the habits that we develop can be not beneficial ones, because we don't understand the nature of reality.
I was just, when you were explaining, what I was noticing, thinking about is, I think generally, I'm pretty typical in most ways, and I think in general, I think, well, I'll let myself be distracted, and I'll look at this and I'll look at that, and when I'm ready, reality will be sitting there waiting for me to get back to it, and that's not
No.
That's not what it is.
Right. The reality
is
there is nothing to go back to that you left because it's already shifted.
you're carrying it with you.
Yeah.
Bring it up with
I
you.
think that wherever you go, there you are.
Exactly.
The question or the challenge is trying to be mindful about every second or every nanosecond or whatever, or every action you take or whatever, and you want to do it with the right intent. The challenge is taking an action in a way that not only has the right intent, but that clearly communicates that intent correctly clearly communicates a positive intent of that action to others as well, and others who are not necessarily on the same path as you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that definitely is our job. Yeah, I mean, we could say
when we get there at Buddhahood, I guess, is when we can do that reliably.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just look at somebody like Geshe Nima, and he does it quite well. You can tell from his whole demeanor that his intention is to help you. He's not trying to get something from you. He's trying to help you, and I think this is something we should strive for in ourselves. And the only way, I mean, it's like Venerable Rabina says this all the time, we are nothing but a bunch of habits. That's all we are, is a bunch of habits. So our habits actually are defining who we are and how the world appears to us and how we appear to the world. Right. So what are we going to do with all of our habitual patterns and tendencies? What the Buddha is saying is there is a pathway that you can take, and you can become habituated to that pathway. And this pathway is going to lead you and others out of this suffering of delusion, of this delusional cyclical existence that is called samsara. And right now we're kind of like, is it a delusion or is it not a delusion? This all seems very real to me. They're saying it's not. Well, so we've talked a lot about this. We've talked a lot about how Kavita mentioned this. We can only pick up a certain frequencies within the electromagnetic spectrum within our eyes, our
Right.
ears, all of that. There's so much more going on that we are not aware of, that doesn't even appear to us. We have to logically begin to understand these things before we can take the next step or leap, really, a leap to going, there is another way to look at reality.
Thinking about Brian's comment or statement about intention is one thing, and then executing the intention. Am I right? I'm sort of thinking that I remember hearing on numerous occasions that in the equation, the actual thing that matters is the intention.
Yes.
And that, yeah, we're gonna have flawed action. Of course, we try our best, but
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the thing that actually matters is our intention. If that intention is pure, if the intention truly is to be of benefit and to help others and to follow this path, well, in some way that's going to come through, regardless of how we may express it.
I was just, another related thought came, how we always talk about how the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are like theirs, not their fault that we don't have the bandwidth to observe them.
Yeah.
Well, and sort of in the same way, thinking about something that you've expressed more than once, which is this notion that with our intention is all well and good, and then we do the thing. Well, the object of or the target of our well-intended action, be it a family member, a student, a colleague, whatever,
A pet.
they're only going to be able to decode our action at the level of their own consciousness, sort of in sort of the same way that we we have this, where's Manjushri? I don't see Manjushri.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point.
They may misencode or misinterpret the intention because of their own particular
Then you
place.
war.
My God, how wouldn't families be different if that thing? But anyways, yeah, it's really is a challenge, as you say.
But the challenge is for us, each one of us, personally, individually.
Yeah.
We can, through practice, change our speech, change our demeanor. We can make changes for the better that will not put people off necessarily. And, make our behavior can be more in line with the Dharma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that will be just like we see with how we respond to Geshe Nima or His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There's a response there that, this person is not intending any harm. This person only wants to help. I mean, even with some teachers can exhibit wrathful behavior, but those teachers, when you realize what it is they're teaching, you realize that wrathful behavior is for your benefit.
I think you have to be at a certain level to get that, because Elizabeth had an experience with Venerable Robina as well, and it frightened the bejesus out of her that she never came back when Venerable Robina was here.
Right.
It scared her so much, but when Venerable Robina responded to you in a particular way, you were taken aback for sure.
Well, like I said, it took me 2 months.
Right, but you had the mental capacity to go, wait a minute, what really was the message? This was my initial response, but what was the message that I initially missed? And let me think about it, let me ponder it, let me ruminate on this and explore this. where someone not as developed
Right.
in mindfulness and the Dharma and all that, they just got scared and ran.
Right.
You know,
So,
it's-
I guess, you know, the advice here
Yeah,
would be for someone who's very new to the Dharma and very susceptible,
yeah,
find the teachers that you feel very, very comfortable with,
right.
you know, and don't expect that a very wrathful teacher is going to make
Be
you feel
warm
good.
and fuzzy. Right.
And over time, as you develop on the path of Dharma, you will see the value of a teacher being able to. It's sort of like these I don't know, the kung fu movies or whatever, where they have the great master and they show them who they are, and they give them a very difficult task
Yeah.
to accomplish, and this is how it can be.
Chopsticks to
Mhm.
catch the fly.
Mm.
Yeah, catch the fly with the chopstick.
So we have to use our own common sense as we traverse the path for ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. In modern times, many people say when we're talking about mindfulness, it means gaining an awareness of our thoughts and feelings. And you'll hear that. Mindfulness is just be aware of what you're thinking, be aware of what you're feeling. And Geshe Nima says this is also okay and correct. But this is a part of mindfulness, not the complete meaning of mindfulness. The comprehensive meaning of mindfulness is recollection towards something we have already understood clearly, correctly, and properly. And he said that he thinks this is very important to have those two aspects of what mindfulness is. You're aware of your thoughts, you're aware of your feelings, but you have a recollection towards something you've already understood clearly, correctly, and properly. And you keep bringing yourself back to that recollection.
Well, I guess so. Just thinking like, how would you wash the dishes mindfully? It would be, any of the past contemplations on ways to think about washing the dishes.
Well, one of the ways,
Just being present in the moment or whatever the thing is.
one of the ways, I mean, just that example, for instance, like when we are, finished with dinner and Don will say, I'll do the dishes. Well, Don is being mindful of bodhicitta, really, of being of help to others. Rather than being very self-cherishing and go, oh, somebody do the dishes for me. You're going, let me help, let me do the dishes, let me help you out. And that's one way that you can bring that mindfulness of bodhicitta into a practice that doing the dishes can then become a practice, in other words.
Mm-hmm.
Anything we do, any chore we do can become a practice if we think of it in that way. If we recall, very clearly a Dharma point. Even sweeping the floor can become a Dharma practice. Cleaning up all of our dirt and dust and all that stuff within us that is blocking our realizations. So there are ways to bring that mindfulness into very mundane activities. Driving the car, you can imagine all of the other beings out there on the road with you as fellow sentient beings who want to be happy and don't want to suffer, and how are we going to help them?
Get into the tires.
Yeah.
You don't need to imagine that. That's what is going on.
Of course, that's what's going on. Most of the time, though, as a self-centered individual, we're not thinking about that. We're thinking about what I want, where I want to get to, how fast I want to get to there, and why is this person in my way? And this is,
Beep.
yeah.
Get out of my way, I'm coming on, move out of the way, move out of the way. How
Right.
dare you pull out in front of me? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All that, and so that being on the road is a great exercise in Dharma practice. Okay, now he goes into talking about the qualities of the Buddha. So in this first stanza, we discussed the qualities of one's guru, who is the same entity as the Buddha. To understand the qualities of the guru, first of all, we understand the qualities of the Buddha. There are many explanations about the Buddha's qualities: the quality of speech, the quality of the Buddha's mind, the quality of the Buddha's body, various types of bodies and emanations that the Buddha has and the qualities of those. As far as the Buddha's body is concerned, the Buddha's body arises from the two great collections of merit or positive potential and wisdom. And we've talked a lot about this. The seven-limb practice is specifically designed to develop our positive potential and as well as our wisdom. So these practices all work towards those kinds of things. The Buddha's body is pure. And Geshe Lobsang Nima said we can't explain each and every aspect of that in this class. But that body is uncontaminated along with the 32 major marks and the 80 minor marks. And he doesn't go into those. You can look these up. Venerable Tibetan Children has a lot of this on our website. You can look on Wikipedia and find these, the 32 major marks and the 80 minor marks. The Buddha's speech has 60 different qualities. For example, if I achieve the enlightened state and become a Buddha, and this is Geshe Lobsang Nima talking, and I give a teaching in Tibetan to an English-speaking audience, they will hear the teaching in English. This is the power of a Buddha's speech. As an ordinary being, if I give a lecture in Tibetan, I will need someone else to translate it into English. People who speak English don't understand what I say in Tibetan. This is the ordinary characteristic of speech. The Buddha's speech isn't like that. If the Buddha speaks in Tibetan, people will hear it in the language that they understand. And then there are many other qualities of the Buddha's speech that he does not go into. Now he's talking about the Buddha's mind. The Buddha's mind is free from all fear. All of the problems of ordinary beings come under the category of fear. That's something to ponder. The Buddha is completely free from fear and is skillful in eliminating the fears of all sentient beings. The Buddha's compassion, kindness, and love is the same for all. There are three main characteristics of the Buddha. The first one is, the Buddha is free from all fear. The second one, the Buddha eliminates the fears of all sentient beings. And the third, the Buddha has a compassionate heart for all sentient beings, whether they feel connected to the Buddha or not, even those who see themselves as enemies of the Buddha. Even if someone were to beat the Buddha's flesh with a weapon, in the Buddha's heart, they are the same, no different. So this is the quality of the Buddha's mind. And this is also, the quality that we are being advised to see in our guru. Because what Geshe Lima was saying is, there is no Buddha other than the guru for us. The Buddha, we don't have the karma for the Buddha to appear to us person to person. We do have the karma for a guru to appear to us, who's coming from a very pure lineage and can give us the teachings that the Buddha gave. And that's all the Buddha ever actually did, was to give teachings to others. And it's through others' own realizations that they got from the Buddha that they had higher experiences. And the same can occur for us with our gurus. But we have to see the guru having those qualities of the Buddha. The Buddha also understands the mental dispositions of all sentient beings. Until we become a Buddha, we can't help sentient beings in the proper way. For example, suppose someone who fears death comes to you and says, "Please instruct me how to eliminate the fear of death." For us ordinary beings, all we can do is just share from our own experience what we've gained through the knowledge of the teachers or the teachings. We can't guarantee whether our experience will help them or not. But the Buddha can understand each and everything about someone. The Buddha clearly understands how to affect a particular person's mind with a particular Dharma teaching. This is a special quality of the Buddha. Without attaining the fully enlightened state of mind, we can't help others in the proper logical way. So if we wish to help other sentient beings, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and our gurus advise us to train in bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, the awakened mind that wishes to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. So now he's going to get into something here, which is a little mind-bending and extremely important as we move forward on the path. It's about the non-dualistic view that we can develop, and we must develop if we are going to be successful on this path. The Buddha's mind is completely non-conceptual. The Buddha understands everything through the objective level. The Buddha understands everything through the objective level. For example, and this is Geshe Lobsang Nima talking, if I think about Brian, I can't talk about Christopher. If I talk about Christopher, I can't think about Brian. This is because most of our thought is at the conceptual level. There is no conceptual thought in the Buddha's mind. The Buddha's mind is completely non-conceptual. Whatever the Buddha apprehends or understands is through the objective level, not the subjective level. That means, and this is exactly what Geshe Lobsang Nima did in the video, whatever the Buddha understands is through the objective level, not the subjective level. That means the Buddha doesn't refer to any internal mental image of the object. We've talked about this before. We've talked about generic images. So when I say Buddha, all of us have a little image that pops into our mind that looks something like some Buddha statue we've seen. I say Buddha, there's a cross-legged, being looking very peaceful. We have some version of that in our minds. Also in our minds, we project onto that image that we have in our minds all the conceptual thoughts we have about that. Our conceptual thoughts, our feelings, all of that go onto that image. So again, if I say puppy dog, another image pops into your mind, and you may see a nice little black dog with a tail wagging, and you go, Molly. Mm-hmm. And you have projected onto the puppy dog all of the qualities that you project onto Molly. Mm-hmm. What he's saying is the Buddha doesn't do this. The Buddha does not have this image in the mind. The Buddha does not have this generic image that's being pulled from the mental continuum and then has all of these qualities assigned to it that it's sort of like having it in our database when we have these qualities assigned to a generic image, Mm-hmm. If I say, imagine a piece of shit, well, all of a sudden there's a different generic image and a complete set of different qualities, right? Right? We get it. The Buddha doesn't do this, is what he's saying. The Buddha does not generate these generic images from his mental continuum. The Buddha directly understands the object that is, being viewed. When we look at one another even, what we do is I have a generic image of Don, a generic image of Tracy, a generic image of Kavita. And when I look at Kavita, I project everything Kavita-esque onto Kavita that is in my mental continuum, my experience. Same with Tracy, I project that onto Tracy. Same with Dawn, I project that onto Dawn. Of course, we can change those. And we must change those. We must begin to develop as we develop our bodhicitta and our wish to be of benefit to all sentient beings, we're going to see that everybody only wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer.
Wait, but isn't the point here that the Buddha doesn't do that?
Right, but this is all I'm saying. Before we get to Buddhahood, we have to change this.
Okay,
We
but
have to
point-
develop.
The main point.
The main point is, I was just bringing it back to argument. The main point is the Buddha does not do that. The Buddha directly
It's
cognizes.
a level of other-centeredness
Yeah.
that we can't
Right.
even get.
This is why it's difficult for us to get our minds around this, because exactly what you said, it's a level of other-centeredness that we have yet
Just
not
there
achieved.
yet.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
It may not get to this lifetime, it may take us a couple of lifetimes or more
We have
to
it.
get there.
but just to get this thought in our head is like getting a foot in the door.
Yeah,
It's
right,
like something we haven't considered before,
right,
right?
right.
And now we can consider this and consider, is there any sense in this? And based on our own experience, which is why I was pointing out our own experience of generic images, we
Right.
can go, oh yeah, I understand what a generic image is. I understand what I do with it, how it
Right,
functions
right,
for me.
right.
This does not function that way. Doesn't function at all for
Well, and
Buddha.
sometimes that's half the battle, what's being said or taught, bringing it to in our own mind, what that means for each of us,
Mhm.
how we use that, do that, whatever, to then know, oh, we're not supposed to do that, or shift it somehow, or whatever.
The state of enlightenment, when
Yeah.
one reaches the state of enlightenment,
We don't do
that's
this
not
in-
necessary.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because one directly experiences
Things, right.
the
We
object.
don't have to have those images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very profound point, difficult for us to understand. And the Buddha understands an object directly through his own pure mind. For example, if we remember something we experienced in the past, we remember that through a generic image,
Mhm.
or an internal image of that particular object. Without referring to a generic image, we can't remember anything. So try this out. Remember your mother. Did a generic image of your mother pop into your head? Something like the smell, your mother's voice, your mother's face. Try to remember the make of your car. Either a word popped into your mind, a shape of the car, anything. We can't remember anything without using a generic image. Remember the equation 2 plus 2 equals 4. Is that we can't remember anything without using a generic image. And we have to understand that as an enlightened being, that's not part of the equation. Generic images.
So generic.
Sometimes-
Another way of describing a generic images is that we are projecting onto things a conceptual concoction that's ours.
Yes, but what I'm trying to point out is that for maybe not us, but most everybody, we don't even recognize we're doing that.
Mm.
We don't even realize we're doing that. We never even think that we're doing that. We don't understand the way our mental continuum is working.
Right, a lot of people just think that's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is. It's just a thought.
Yeah.
We don't understand that we're doing this. So I'm saying, watch, use your own experience, test it out for yourself. That is how we remember things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna just say it's how we enter. Like
All I'm saying is,
I can
Geshe-
almost feel the way my projecting onto this merges with whatever is there, but it's
Mhm.
I have a whole array of things I'm thinking about this that I'm projecting onto it that meets
Yeah.
with whatever subtle thing and what you're saying is, so what Geshe Lima is saying is this is so mixed in with conceptual elaboration.
It's completely
a Buddha doesn't
contaminated.
do that.
Yeah.
The main point here is that a Buddha doesn't do that.
Right.
But also same with Tracy, when I look at that thing out there called Tracy, you know, there's a whole thing, a whole bucket load of projection.
Mastery with chainsaw,
Go-
like all
goes
that
on.
stuff.
You know, goes on.
Right.
And what he's saying is a Buddha doesn't do
Right. A
that.
Buddha sees this,
He just nakedly experiences it.
sees this exactly as it is. Exactly.
Whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, and so, and,
Yeah.
you know, okay.
Right.
I mean, I just,
The reason I'm pointing it out is so that we understand what it is we're doing that the Buddha is not doing.
So he just sees the shape, the material, has no cup, glass.
I can't tell you, I don't know what the
Yeah,
Buddha
yeah,
sees.
I know, I know.
I mean,
It's like,
so-
I'm like,
we even have a generic image of the color.
yeah.
So it's kind of like a huge thing.
Right.
All objects, whatever object the Buddha understands, there is no obstruction between the object and the Buddha's understanding of it. So in other words, all of these generic images we have in our mental continuum and all the things we project onto them are obstructions that are occurring between us and the object that we are cognizing. It's obstructing our pure view of what it is.
Maybe just he's the atom in the quantum field when he sees the cup. I don't, or she.
I think it's probably even beyond
Beyond
that.
that,
if you
yeah.
analyze
If
what
we
you
see
do-
something, they just see it's all oneness.
Right.
Yeah, or
I think
something.
I think this, my understanding, and I'm gonna repeat what I said before, just to emphasize, because I've experienced this and I'm pretty sure this is the direction that it's going, is this way we project. We're projecting our conceptuality onto what seems to be an external world.
Right, exactly. That's a very good and simple
That's
way
the-
of putting it.
That's really what I think the main point is here.
But he's also
Whether it's a
saying,
quantum particle or not,
Right.
we would project our conceptuality
Of what a
about
quantum, yeah.
particle
Yeah.
is, right.
Right.
We, you know,
Right.
What Geshe Lobsang Nima is saying is the Buddha's mind is completely non-conceptual, therefore it doesn't use
yeah.
It doesn't-
It's just a direct.
yes, it's completely direct, without any of
Alright.
that other information in between. When we first hear this, it is very difficult for us to understand. As we study more and more, we come closer to understanding and appreciating the Buddha's qualities. We appreciate the causes which lead to Buddhahood. Even when we dream of these causes, it creates joy in our mind and a sense of encouragement. If we keep going, and if we're consistent in generating these kinds of causes, then even if misfortune falls upon us, we can overcome or counteract it with confidence and pride. And I thought it was interesting that he used the word pride. And what this reminded me of is in Tantra, they talk about you visualize yourself in a different form. And this was in one of the stanzas. You visualize yourself as a divine being, right? And that is a way of developing what they call divine pride. It's a very purified view of who you can be, and you can develop divine pride in that. It's not
like, look at me, I'm a king. Or
It's not like that at all.
Yeah,
It's not like that, and it's
oh,
very easy to make that mistake from the
Right.
outside viewing in. And this is why Tantra is kept enshrouded and it's kept secret. It's just not out there because people will misunderstand it.
Right.
They will misunderstand it. And so he's saying if we continue with our practices, we will be able to overcome or counteract any kind of misfortune with complete confidence and pride. You know, understanding of who we are, where we're going, what we're headed for, what reality is.
So I want to go back to this generic image. Yeah, Malik, stop. Sorry. Back to this generic image thing again, because so the Buddha sees generic images, whatever they are.
Buddha does not see generic images because they are related to the conceptual mind. The Buddha just directly cognizes the object without anything in between.
What's the difference between a generic image and cognizing the object?
Cognizing in our mind,
Is
we're-
creating the generic
we
image,
the
we
first
call
there
it.
is it's like a split second. If I say skeleton, you're going to have a generic image of a skeleton in your mind, some image, some mental image of a thing with bones and a skull and all that kind of stuff. And that means something to you. You project onto that thing then all of the concepts that you have about skeleton. And there are many, I'm sure there are many for all of us. There are many. You know, it could be Halloween, it could be scary, it could be an operation, it could be understanding, you know, the skeletal nature of the human being or whatever it is. But that's all conceptual mind functioning there. And it uses that image as a sort of a whole, it holds, that image holds all your information. So you can call it up very quickly, like calling up something on the computer.
So it's preconceived.
It's
It's preconceived
preconceived,
notion
but it is
based on
always changing too
experiencing.
as we develop our understanding of what a skeleton is and learn more about a skeleton. That image is going to take more, and there'll be more information.
Yeah.
Right, but the Buddha's omniscient. I mean, this is what we're being told. The Buddha's omniscient. There is no need for any of that. It's just directly, without the generic image, without the conceptual thought. See, and Geshe Nima said this is extremely difficult for us to understand because we ourselves do not do it. It's, you know,
That'd be considered the clear mind.
clear light mind.
Clear light mind.
This is why the clear light mind has there is no. I mean, we can try. We absolutely do try to have an image, a generic image for a clear light mind. We go, okay, it's clear, it's light.
Yeah, whatever that is.
You know, but I think the actual experience of clear light mind is different than thinking, oh, it's clear, it's light.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like saying divine, pride.
right.
Those are things in me. I just say, oh Lord. Here we go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, we misunderstand and misconstrue a lot of the information in the Buddhist path simply because we haven't reached the level to understand. And so all we can do is project our own stuff onto it.
Mhm.
It's an interesting path because it's like peeling away layers of an onion
Right.
to finally get to, you know, what's being. This is why sometimes it's so difficult to understand the Dharma teachings, or we read some of these, you know, writings by Chandrakirti or Tsongkhapa, and you're going,
Yeah.
hello, I don't understand a word. It's because we don't have any context for it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to spend a little time on that point.
So we don't know what the Buddha sees.
No, until we're a Buddha.
Not Buddha.
How could we, right?
How would we know?
We know what humans experience and think and how it functions for us. We can imagine
Any
it's
image a non-Buddha sees is always got some part of conceptual thought associated. Is that what you're saying?
No.
well,
Yes.
think about it. Try it out for yourself. Just try it out for
So,
yourself.
for example, if I think of you, Christopher, I say, okay, there's these set of aggregates that create this appearance that we label Christopher. That's it.
Right. And that's
I don't
all.
say he's an asshole, he's a good person, he's bad. I don't assign any other things to it, but I've already said in my, you know, I see it, to me, what would be a pretty generic image of Christopher without any assignment of any attributes. But even that is still a conception.
Even that.
That's
right,
all because, yeah.
Even that. But we don't really do that. We don't really
No, we
do
just think of it and.
that. Right.
whatever
And we
it is.
do have preconceived notions that even if we're not aware of them, we do have them.
I mean, you could take it
Yeah.
so many levels.
Oh,
You could,
yeah.
You know, all of that you just described relies on your preconceived notion that there are molecules forming that clump over there called Christopher. they say that, I mean, even the aggregates are empty of existing, and so we have this like way we keep grappling for something, but I don't know, yeah, it's kind of a.
All I would say is we should do the practices Geshe Lima gave us, particularly this one on the clarity of the mind. This will help us a lot. I really think this will help us a lot to sort of move beyond our conceptualizing. And the thing is, we can't really do it without the concepts because that's the level we're at. So we have to start at the level we're at. We start at the conceptual level and then follow the guidance of the teachers and do the practices. Because if we don't do the practices, nothing's going to change.
Right.
We're going to stay doing what we do so well and so habitually. This was an amazing little section that he gave, I thought. Okay. When we study or practice Buddhism, some people may just come to a class or read a book and then leave. Like some kind of ritual, they come together with a group of people for a meeting or a class and then just leave it behind them and don't think that much about it. And this is Geshe Lima. This is my suggestion. If we can continuously stay on this path, then all of us will be happy in the later part of our life. Even when problems come, we will be happy. So this is something I want to share with you today. So he wants us to continuously stay on the path, continuously study, continuously practice. That's the only method. And he says that, even in this life, later in our life, we'll be happier because of it. Now he talks about, so any more on that? It's like, it is difficult for us to understand the whole thing about.
Well, and there's all the
non-conceptual.
layers. So like you can understand here, but then there's all these other layers of understanding that one has to get to about it.
And there's, I mean, there's no way we could possibly understand how a Buddha has no conceptual thought and everything is objective. It's just not what we do.
Right.
So all we can do is just hear those words, think about what our experience is and go, well, our experience isn't that.
Yeah. Keep going. We're not there yet.
And he's, Geshe Lima is saying, I want you to continuously study and practice. You will be happier if you do that. This is what I want to share with you today. So now he talks about applying the Buddha's qualities to the Guru's qualities. The first stanza, as I mentioned before, talks about the mindfulness of the Guru. To understand the mindfulness of the Guru, first of all, we try to understand the qualities of the Buddha and then apply those to the Guru. They're the same. If there is no Guru, there are no activities of the Buddha for you. The Guru serves as the connecting bridge between the disciple and the Buddha. We get the blessing from the Buddha, the realization of the Buddha, the transmission of the Buddha through the Guru. As an ordinary being, we need some connecting bridge. We don't have the positive karma to see the Buddha person to person. If the Buddha appeared in this world, we wouldn't have the karma to meet the Buddha unless maybe we already had some realizations. Buddha is gone, but still the Buddha's teaching is available in this world. So it is very fortunate for us to have the opportunity and time to study the Buddha Dharma. There are many traditions within the Buddha Dharma or within Buddhism. Whatever tradition you follow is 100% up to you. And Venerable Robina says this all the time. You are the boss. You're the boss. It's up to you. So Geshe Lobsang Nima is saying we're very, very lucky. Always keep this in mind. Don't lose any hope. Continually make effort again and again. So he's being very encouraging. He understands that we don't understand a lot of this. But he's being very, very encouraging to keep going, because it's the only way that we're going to understand it. And understanding it means we will be happy, and we will be able to help others be happy. That is the point. That's why it matters. Cultivating pure vision. We must try to cultivate pure vision, even in our day-to-day life. There is not a single person without fault. Truer words were never spoken. If we look for the fault in a person, we're going to find it. It will always appear to us. In this world, we can't find people without fault. Here's the kicker. Whether we find fault in another or not depends on us. If we consider what appears to us in another is the fault of that person, then we'll always have some kind of sensitivity or disturbance in our heart. If we consider the fault is not the other person's fault, but appears that way due to our own karma, then we will always be okay. We'll have no problem. This is another huge point. Yeah, I'll read it again. This is huge. This is what, and he's asking us to cultivate this way of seeing things in our day-to-day life. This goes back to the thing about the non-dualistic view. Okay, I'll read it again. We must try to cultivate pure vision, even in our day-to-day life. There is not a single person without fault. That's nice to just have that as a given, right? We're all in the same bucket.
flawed.
If we look for the fault in a person, it will always appear to us. In this world, we can't find people without fault. But whether we find fault in another or not depends on us. If we consider what appears to us in another is the fault of that person, then we'll always have some kind of sensitivity or disturbance in our heart. So, you think about this. You're viewing somebody who you view, oh, that person is, I don't know what. Pick your favorite person to hate, right? And all of that stuff you're saying is in that person, and yet it's making you upset. It's making you disturbed. I hate, Orange Man. Get him off the planet. I mean, I have friends like this. They their little texts, they have them in, hanging, and I mean, it's just unbelievable.
It's scary.
So this projection, we do, but and that's on a very extreme level.
Sure.
But we do it within our families. We do it all the time. So we're projecting onto somebody all of these qualities which we think they have, the faults that they have, and yet what the experience is in our own heart. That experience of the fault is within ourselves. We're feeling the pain of it. So whether we find fault in a person or not depends on us, depends on what we want our view to be. So when we realize it's a given, there's nobody without a fault, then it sort of levels the playing field, and we don't have to single people out to say they're particularly bad and I have a problem. Because what happens is, I have a problem. We are the ones who feel the problem. If we consider what appears to us in another is the fault of that person, then we'll always have some kind of sensitivity or disturbance in our heart. If we consider the fault is not the other person's fault, but appears that way due to our own karma, then we will always be okay. We'll have no problem. And the reason is we can do something about our own karma. We can start to see ourselves differently. We can change. And so as we change, the view is going to purify. So he's Geshe Lobsang again is saying something huge here and is asking us to begin to cultivate a pure vision, to begin to recognize that everything that appears to us is an appearance of our own karma. And if we can see it that way, then we will stop being so disturbed by all of the appearances around us and recognize, well, what am I going to do about this? How do I change my view? How do I look upon this differently? How do I look upon everybody with this unconditional love of bodhicitta and this wisdom that understands the nature of reality? That's really, those are the keys. These teachings are really huge.
You have 4 minutes.
I have 4 minutes, but it's good to spend the time,
Yeah, I'm just letting you know.
so that we get this. All right, now he's talking about eliminating external and internal factors. We are social animals or social beings. So there are 2 factors which we should try to eliminate in order to be happy and contented in our life. One factor is an external factor. Another factor is an internal factor. External factors arise from external things, through our environment, our surroundings, other people, and so on. But there are no enemies we can eliminate which will cause all those external factors to be eliminated completely. For example, if we are always by ourselves, we feel loneliness. If we are surrounded by other people, we feel deprived of our privacy and then complain. There's no other option. Either we stay alone or we stay with other people. There is no third option. We should always think in this way. We are social animals who need friends that love us, who share in our happiness, and sometimes share in our problems with empathy. Sometimes they show their love and we share that love and we get along. We always weigh these 2 options, whether we stay alone or stay with other people. If you were a billionaire and built a golden cabin in the forest and had each and everything you wanted, but no one was ever there, would you be happy or not? No one would say, this is a happy place for me. I can't find anyone who will talk to me or share anything with me. We don't like that option. The other option is to stay with other people. If we wish to stay with other people, but other people disturb us, there's no way to completely eliminate, eradicate, or remove that external factor. So the important thing is to try and remove the internal factor. The internal factor is the self-centered attitude, anger, jealousy, selfish motivation, greed, these sorts of things. If we eliminate that, then naturally we can be happy or content wherever we live, whether we live alone or whether we stay with others. If we stay with people who always complain and criticize, instead of feeling depressed because of that or having some other kind of negative thought, we appreciate those people because through the Dharma, we become qualified or equipped to understand their problem. The problem of self-grasping, the problem of the self-centered attitude. the problem of thinking things inherently exist. If people criticize or find fault in us, we can infer 100% that those people have some problem. People who don't have a problem never get angry. Shanti Deva says anger always arises from some unpleasant feeling. Unpleasant feelings arise from some kind of failure or lack of success. When failure or lack of success comes in our way, then we feel upset and unhappy. At that moment, we have almost completed all the causes to be angry and aggressive toward other people. The Buddhist way of thinking or perspective is that if we wish to be happy or wish to be content, there's nothing other than these two factors, the external factor and the internal factor. So if we're only ready or willing to eliminate the external factor in order to be happy, this is wrong. It's a mistake. In order to be happy or content, we always try to eliminate the internal factor by hearing Dharma talks and Dharma teachings, and then studying the point of the Dharma talk or teaching. Then we try to practice and do meditation in our day-to-day life without interruption. In other words, every day. Every day do this. That kind of practice makes us happy in this life as well as in future lives, because this kind of practice leaves a very, very potent or deep imprint within our mental continuum. When we take our next rebirth as a human being, that human mental continuum will also be happy, holistic, realistic, patient, and forgiving. Even if we don't think about Dharma practice from a deeper level, if we just think Dharma practice is for this life, it is very helpful or useful if we follow the Dharma. So we'll stop there. These teachings are incredible. The fact that we have this qualified teacher from this lineage, and he's not looking at anything. He knows this stuff, you know? And so how fortunate we are. And what a mistake it would be if we don't follow his instructions.
Right.
Okay. You want to do closing prayers?
Okay, let's do something a little different. Just take a moment to recall some of the points that we heard today and thought about today that can be applied to increase your love and compassion and sense of responsibility for managing your internal and external triggers. And Venerable Robina always says that all these things that we heard today, nothing is ever lost, so it's going into your mental continuum. And that you want that to penetrate deeply and change you forever. It's not just a word that comes and goes, but it becomes now part of your mental continuum forever. And generate a sense of joy that you've met these teachings and have this transforming content going into your mental continuum. And feel very happy. Happy, and then say with me the final dedication. In all my lives, may I never be separated from true laws, and so enjoy the splendor of Dharma, fully perfecting the virtues of levels and paths. May I speedily attain the state of Vajradhara.
And aren't you lucky?
Amen, hallelujah.
I was
Okay.
literally thinking that.
Yeah, well, that was in my mind too. I think amen, hallelujah sort of went around the room
I think so.
privately.
So, yeah.
Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us. I hope this was
Hey, we need to have a physical.
Good and mind-boggling.
We're gonna have a physical meetup soon, so
yeah.
let's, at Losar, the Tibetan New Year's just around the corner, and we'll have an in-person luncheon gathering soon. I gotta look at the calendar, but it starts very soon.
And I'm just throwing out there, I know it's a lot of work potentially on your guys' part, but maybe during the summertime, we do a movie night.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right.
And do like Groundhog Day.
Did you guys watch
Wizard
it?
of Oz. We did, you know, and Wizard of Oz, because
Mhm.
Christopher, you did such a fabulous job explaining.
All right,
Oh,
everybody.
I've got more in my head now about it too. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop.